I'm Donna Araujo, staff writer for the Global Sisters Report, and I'm here in the NCR National Office with Sister Simone Campbell, Executive Director of Network, and probably most known for being a nun on the bus. So great to have you here.
Thank you, Donna. Glad to be with you.
So I think that with your Nuns on the Bus tour, you changed the way that a lot of Americans perceive Catholic sisters. So I was wondering if there are plans for another bus tour, and if so, what the focus of that tour will be.
Well, it's a good question. Do we have one planned? I say that the bus is like Robin Hood. It shows up when you need it. So if you think of an issue that needs attention or needs really a big push, well, the bus may show up. But stay tuned. We'll see. Maybe this fall. We're talking about the possibility of this fall before the election, but it's a lot of money. We have to raise money, and then we have to figure out what can we do that's realistic. But Robin Hood shows up when you're desperate.
So your first bus tour in 2012 was very focused on opposing the Paul Ryan budget. And he's recently introduced a plan, an anti-poverty plan that many are hailing as a change in tune, perhaps more compassionate towards America's poor. Do you agree with that assessment?
It's certainly a step forward that he's mentioning poverty. He's done 4 hearings on it. He himself has visited a few low-income communities. But all the reports are when he visits those low-income communities, he's really awkward, he's really uncomfortable, and he doesn't really talk to people. His proposal, interestingly enough, was taken from a Catholic Charities proposal that would provide full employment to Catholic charities. And I don't think it's a good way forward. But at least he's talking about it. And what he says is he does agree that poverty is complex. But then he goes on with these really simplistic solutions that the issue is people need to be encouraged to work. He totally misses that the issue is wages. That I've met so many people that are working full-time but still living in poverty because of minimum wage. A second piece he doesn't acknowledge is that there are not enough jobs to go around. And then what we need to do is create jobs. And then the third piece is folks who are low-wage workers, they need supports like childcare, some additional training so that they can improve their job skills. And he does nothing to address those. So while I'm glad he's talking about it, it's a step forward, he hasn't gone far enough. So I'm encouraging him, come on further down the road, sort of like the Wizard of Oz, move on down the road. And that I think we can find common ground if he's serious about this. But it's going to take more than just, a few pages. What he's going to have to do is really know the reality of people. So that's what I'm working on, trying to educate him about real people.
So your second bus tour focused on immigration reform, and right now with the migrant children on the border, that's in the news again. What do you think that we need to do with that in mind about immigration and immigration reform?
Well, we need to pass comprehensive immigration reform and with a path to citizenship for the undocumented folks that are here. The issue of the kids at the border is really a refugee crisis, which is folks fleeing oppression and violence in their countries of origin. They're coming here as refugees. That's really a whole different set of laws than the comprehensive immigration reform. But we've got to allow these kids a safe haven. I mean, we've signed a UN treaty that says we will provide haven to those who seek it. And right now we're keenly aware of what's happening in the Middle East and the number of refugees there. And do you know Little Lebanon, which is twice the size of Delaware, is hosting over 1 million Syrian refugees? 1 million Syrian refugees in the place the size of twice the size of Delaware. I mean, they're being hugely generous because they know their responsibilities. And some of our people are getting nervous about 60,000 refugees in a country like ours, as big as ours is. We the people can make this happen. We can do the right thing and make sure these kids are safe. That's one thing that we need to pay attention to. And the second is a lot of our U.S. policies are the ones that created the vacuum that's created the violence there. We need to change those policies. We need to make sure these kids are protected, and we need to provide them with lawyers and due process. It's who we are as a nation. We're a nation of laws, not a nation of hate. We can do this.
I think that when you look at issues that are happening in the world, most of the time when you look at who's doing the grassroots work and addressing those issues, it's Catholic sisters. And you write in your book that you've always held your contemplative life as something that was very nourishing and very important to you, and that you practice Zen. So I was wondering if you could speak to how in your 10 years at Network and all of your years as a sister of social service, which is really steeped in those issues, how your spiritual life has sustained you in that.
Well, without my spiritual life, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. The fact is that I just describe what I do as walking willing. Okay, and I say this in the book if you saw it there, but that we're one body. I mean, that's what Paul says in the epistles, we're one body. And if the body has a need, who am I, as one little piece of the body, to say no? It'd be like my gallbladder saying, no, I'm sorry, I'm on strike today, I'm not going to. We call that illness. So if our one body has a need, I will try to respond. So like this interview, y'all asked, I'm happy to do it as long as I can. And so my spirituality is at the heart of being willing to go places I never thought I would go in all my live-born days. I mean, I joke and say, lead a quiet life like mine, join the convent. But really, the key piece is to stay focused on mission. Because as long as we're focused on our mission of lifting up the folks who are struggling so hard in our society and in our world and responding to the needs of our earth, that's how I got into this trouble to begin with. So it's just about trying to be faithful to mission. And as long as we're doing that, the Holy Spirit's alive and well, doing the rest. It's all the Holy Spirit's fault. So.
You also write in your book that you don't believe that religious life is dying, but rather that it's changing its mission, or at least focus and mission in a changing world. What do you see as that change in focus, or what it should be?
Well, I think it's still being shaped, but I think that the bus is a great example of how it's amazing to be part of something that changed our cultural view of religious life. I mean, it's pretty surprising. But the fact is that what we say about religious life is a gift of the Spirit to the people of God. It's not a gift to the hierarchy, it's a gift to the people of God. And so when you look at what we need now, in the 40s and 50s, 60s, we needed institutions, we needed schools, we needed hospitals, we needed an infrastructure to respond and provide social services. We don't need that now. We built it, it's done. But what we need now are things like, when you look at the needs of our society, our society's hungry for community. It yearns for spirituality. So many people yearn for spirituality, for somebody to listen, for a sense of meaning, and wrestling with death and dying. Our nation is just really terrible at dealing with death and dying. Then you look at what women religious bring. We've been building community forever. We're deeply spiritual folks. We can't get up and do everything anymore because we're getting old, but we can listen. I mean, so much of what we do on the bus is just listening to people's stories. And then when you look at meaning, well, we know if we're in this together, there's a bigger story. We're about something more than ourselves. And people are so hungry for that. And finally, our nation needs to wrestle with death and dying. And I think we're called, as women religious, in this moment in the United States, to share the richness that we have in some new ways. And in a sense, the bus has been that. I had this experience 2 weeks ago where I was down in New Mexico, and this guy at a big conference center and Ghost Ranch, and this guy comes up to me, probably in the late 40s, and he says to me, it's kind of a big burly guy, he says, well, Sister Simone, I'm a big fan. I thought, well, that's so sweet, thank you so much. And then he said, I pray the rosary every morning. I wondered, would you say the rosary on my rosary? Because it would strengthen me for the future. I thought, holy moly. I mean, it brought tears to my eyes because of his need, but his faith. And so I said, of course, yeah, I could do that. And so I did, and I give it back to him. And then I was talking to a Jewish rabbi Carol, who told me that she'd been reading the Gospels and was fascinated that Jesus said to people that were healed, "Your faith has saved you." And what I realized was that this guy, Vincent, asking me to say a rosary on his rosary was his faith. His faith nourished me, and my doing it nourished him. A little bit, I hope. But it was the amazing connection of being nourished in this journey. And we have to find new ways to do it. How do we support each other in challenging times? And the bus has been a little piece of that, I think, I hope. It was pretty surprising.
Speaking of challenging times, the LCWR Assembly is next week. Are you going to be there? And what do you hope that you'll see from the sisters as they try to navigate their relationship with the Vatican?
Oh, I imagine that it will be a further journey in faith together, and that it will be another step of walking in the dark, but of being faithful to mission. And the fact is that they have done an amazing piece of work at being faithful to the Spirit and to where we're called as women religious in the United States, and deserve a huge amount of our appreciation and credit. And I hope that being together, that they feel nourished, supported, and loved, and how grateful we are for their work. And I also hope that we can keep our perspective so that we continue to know that we're not given to the institution, we're given to the people of God. And that is our mission. So that the role they provide in leadership is to facilitate our mission to the people of God.
So in your career, you've worn many hats, and I'm sure you get asked this question all the time, but you've been a lawyer, you've been the head of your community, you've been executive director of Network. Any chance we'll see you on a ballot anytime soon?
Probably not. Though it was pretty funny. I was on the Bill Maher show a couple months ago, and Ariana Huffington decided, who does Huffington Post, decided that the best ticket for the 2016 presidential election was Elizabeth Warren and Simone Campbell. So anyway, I found that pretty amusing. But but this is the thing, is that we're so hungry for effective political leadership that some people have suggested it to me to run for office. But the fact is, my role is not in that elected leadership position, but rather to stir us all up. We can be community. That's who we are.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you here.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you. It's really fun. I'm glad to be at the center of the National Catholic Reporter.